we start the official video for Week 7 TV ratings and attendance, I wanted to make a announcement that I just found out, courtesy of being an Arlington Renegades season ticket holder, that today, that's right, today, May 13th, 2025, the UFL season tickets for 2026 have officially gone on sale. You can go into your account and renew your tickets that you currently have, or actually buy season tickets for the 2026 season, which is absolutely amazing. I have already renewed my tickets for the Arlington Renegades for 2026 and paid my account in full, which is absolutely amazing. I will be creating a separate video for this because there's a lot more features and discounts and things that you get as a season ticket holder for the UFL in 2026, and then you get priority for 2027 as well. Absolutely amazing to hear. This could, I'm hoping, may lead to potentially seeing some news about expansion coming soon if they do plan on going forward with the expansion in 2026. Because obviously you're going to want those tickets to go on sale pretty quick to get the interest and everything out there. But it is amazing. It's May 13th and these are already on sale. This is a huge, huge difference in the right direction. And from what I've seen so far on what the Arlington Renegades are offering for their season ticket holders, there is a lot of feedback that they took, and it looks like they are applying. So we'll talk about that in a separate video, but let's go ahead and dive right on in to this week's attendance, Week 7 attendance for the UFL. And again, speaking of season tickets, Week 7 of the UFL was a very disappointing weekend for attendance numbers. You could draw any conclusion of why. It was Mother's Day weekend, whatever the case may be. We're not here for excuses. We're here to give you the numbers and just give you the straight facts. So attendance numbers, Friday, May 9th, 2025, the DC Defenders and the San Antonio Brahmas, 9,884 at the Alamo Dome. Then on Saturday, May 10th, 2025, the Panthers and Renegades at Choctaw Stadium, 9,963. And then Sunday's games on Mother's Day, Roughnecks and Stallions. This is the lowest recorded attendance for the Stallions that I could find of 4,744. This is a huge problem right here. And again, a lot of people are saying, you know, you had a game on Sunday morning when it is a very southern state with churches. And I kind of said this back in 2022 when I went to the USFL opening weekend, inaugural season or whatnot, where on Sunday you had a great crowd Sunday night. You had probably the highest, at least recorded crowd for the Stallions of like 17,000 people, but I still think there's way more there than that wasn't recorded, but it is what it is. But then come Sunday, there was no one at any of the games, and clearly walking from the hotel to the stadium, there was churches on every single block that were full of people, full of cars in the parking lot, everything like that. This is a bad time to be putting a Stallions game in the South. It's one of those things that we've kind of point out, but you know, this is just part of the growing pains that we know that the league is facing, is scheduling, whether it's to do with TV time, whatever the case may be. 4,744 is just absolutely mind-blowing for a Stallions game. Moving on to the Battlehawks and Showboats in Memphis, Tennessee, 4,215. This number is still coinciding with what we've kind of seen from Memphis this entire season. So it's no shocker, and it's no real surprise in that realm. I had thought originally this was the lowest attended game this year, but it's not. Again, these numbers did not help the league at all this weekend. The Week 7 totals, 28,806. Put that in perspective. It's crazy to think that St. Louis draws that in one game. if not more, which is crazy. The average being 7,202. The UFL 2025 total attendance through week 7 or 7 weeks, 337,442, average being 12,052. Again, we're still not that far off from 2024's overall attendance and average. That's the key point we've got to look here. Despite the fact we've seen a dip for this weekend in attendance, the big thing we can say is the factor that we're still on track for a very close mimic of 2024, which is pretty impressive with the lack of advertising and marketing and all that type of stuff. So moving on to the next one here, and that is by stadium. So we know in this scenario, Choctaw Stadium now has all 5 games in the books. Total attendance for the season, 48,817, average of 9,763. So this is not that much off. It's about a difference of give or take. I think I looked at this. It was an average of about 600 and some odd people less than last year, and averaged out to be give or take about 100, a little less than 100 per game. So this is actually not bad for the Arlington Renegades. When we review in the video tomorrow, the overall attendance and everything like that, you'll see how the Arlington Renegades or Dallas Renegades, however you want to put it, from 2022 to this season, has had a slight dip every year, but it's not actually that bad. This is a very consistent team in the UFL for attendance and their overall attendance they've had. So this is good on that perspective. It shows that same amount of fans are going to games, buying tickets. The comp value is still being there as well. So I expected this number to be a little bit higher for week 5 because they were giving out free tickets to kids, family, and all that type of stuff. And didn't look like it really helped that much in that realm. Granted, there wasn't that much of a notice that they were doing that. Then we look at the next stadium on the list that changed this for week 7, and that was Protective Stadium. They now have 4 games in the book, 33,624, average 8,406. Obviously, you can see there is a huge discrepancy between last year. Now, of course, we're basing last year's number off 6 because they had a playoff game at home, so that number is a little bit higher. It'll be curious to see if they get a home playoff game this year or if that game potentially will be at Ford Field. We'll keep an eye on that one. Obviously, we know there is a dip there for the Birmingham Stallions at Protective Stadium, but it's not that much. I think if they get that playoff game, this could actually average out to be about the same, despite the fact of low attendance in week 7. The next number we see here on the list is Alamo Dome. They now have 2 total attendance so far this year, 24,311, averaging 12,156. Again, they are still on track to be averaged above last year, even though technically they had 5 games. They'll only have 4 this year. I'm curious to see if they can actually meet that as time goes on. But attendance again in that market dropped roughly almost about 3,000 to 4,000 for first game compared to this one. And next week they have another Friday night game. So I'm curious to see what that does. We'll be talking about that tomorrow in the video as well, of what Friday night games do. A lot of people are talking about, hey, that's affecting attendance. I'll have that to go through, and to be honest with you, I'm not actually seeing that being truthful once you go through the numbers. Next up on this list, we have, I believe it was, see, I'm losing track here. Then we have the Memphis Showboat. So Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, they are now at 3 games, 13,341, averaging 4,447. Again, this is a significant drop from last year of averaging about 2,400 per game drop. That is significant. We'll see if they can get that number up the remaining 2 games. I highly doubt it at this point. So I think that is going to be a market to kind of take an eye out, look at. But again, it's one of those things I'm telling you, stick with the market, do more marketing in it, do more promotions, do advertising, all that type of stuff. And I think that we'll clearly see a difference there. Just a heads up too, if you forgot, there's supposedly the last game of the season for the Memphis Showboats is the throwback game to honor the 1980s Showboats, and I've heard they are supposed to have throwback helmets or logos or something like that. I'm curious if that's still happening because I've heard nothing about it since beginning of the year, and no one's really talking about it. So curious how that is. It'd be interesting to see if they went out and actually did a throwback uniform all together with helmets and jerseys. I doubt it. And they rep the red jerseys that they had. We'll see. Highly doubt they'll do that, but it'd be interesting to see. Overall, though, again, when we look at it, 337,442, averaging 12,052. So, again, it's not bad when we look at it at a perspective of the full year. We are seeing about a 1,500 drop between just about 1,500 drop on average per week with this, but we'll see where it ends in a couple weeks and kind of go from there. But let's move on to the overall standings here for attendance. Obviously, as we've talked about, Choctaw Stadium, 48,817. And I mean, overall, you see these numbers and they're not really that bad overall. It'll be interesting to see in comparison to next year what happens through week 7. But again, week 7 at this point last year, Choctaw Stadium was only at 40,889 with 4 games. Ford Field, 31,299 with 4 games. And you can see that's a huge difference in Ford Field by 11,000 people that they have drawn into Ford Field this year. Amazing. Protective Stadium, you can see that number is concerning right there. Protective Stadium, 3 games last year at this point, 33,897, and they've already had 4 this year and drawn almost the exact same number. That is crazy. Alamo Dome, they're at 3 last year, 2 this year. Not worried about there. Rice Stadium, we've talked about. Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, 3 at this point last year, 22,040. This year, 13,341. There is your problem right there. Big. But again, we'll talk about that more tomorrow on the attendance and TV rating overall video and if there actually is truly a problem. But moving on, let's go to the TV ratings. And this is not too bad, but it does show where ABC continues to be the leader of the UFL for 2025 season. But let's start out with Friday on Fox, 540,000 viewers. This is another dip in viewership by almost 300,000 viewers from last week. Honestly, I think there was like NBA and NHL playoffs going on, but I don't think there was much going on Friday night with viewership. So I'm curious to see that number dropping. I'm also curious to see how that number starts next week. Obviously, this not this upcoming week, but the following in week 9 is Memorial Day weekend. So I'm curious to see how that does as well. But again, this is a pretty significant drop for Friday Night Football. It is the second lowest that they've had overall this season compared to the NFL Draft Night. But we'll see. Fox may actually be getting more not necessarily what they were expecting, but they could still be making a decent amount of marketing off this, which could be the whole point of Friday night games. Then we go to Saturday, the Panthers and Renegades at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Fox, 596,000 viewers. Again, if you trickle over from Friday night into Saturday on Fox, there is not much, and my camera just completely aired out and overheated. Lovely. I'll continue going here and we'll wrap the video up without me on camera. But anyways, so going here, and I will honestly just remove the camera and put this on here. So then we look at Sunday's games on Mother's Day. I was actually surprised and impressed by this. Again, ABC continues to be the leader in the UFL. Roughnecks and Stallions at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC, 956,000 viewers. And then the Battlehawks and Showboats at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, 233,000 viewers. Total viewers, 2,325,000 for the year. Now, one thing I do want to take into consideration here is that 233,000 viewers on that Sunday game on ESPN really kind of shows that ESPN is struggling with viewership. That game there for the 2025 season so far is actually their lowest of the entire year. That is drawing borderline like FX/FS1 numbers that we've seen in prior years of the XFL and UFL or whatnot. But it is the lowest number that we've seen. The other lowest number we saw was in week 3 at 300,000 for one of the games. But yeah, 233,000 is the lowest game recorded this year. Again, I'm shocked in that realm that the Battlehawks got that low of viewership, especially against the Showboats. I know the Showboats haven't been doing great this year, but on ESPN at that time frame, very interesting numbers. Anyways, that wraps up this week's TV and attendance rating video, and we will see you back here on the flip side tomorrow for the big overview of does the UFL have an attendance and TV rating problem in 2025 compared to previous seasons? We'll go over the full details with you, and we'll see you on the flip side. Have a great one, everyone.